First Contact Follies. Ambassador Zixnax smoothed down his iridescent feathers and took a deep breath, which caused his chest sacs to inflate dramatically. The rest of the Galactic Council watched in tense silence as the view screen flickered to life, revealing the interior of the primitive Earth vessel. "Greetings, humans of Earth," Zixnax began, his translator converting his melodious trills into the crude sounds of English. "We come in peace and wish to welcome you to the greater galactic community." The human captain, a stocky female with close-cropped hair, blinked in surprise. "Well, hot Dan," she muttered before catching herself. "I mean, greetings, alien person. I'm Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth exploration vessel Curiosity. We, come in peace too." Zixnax's head frills twitched in amusement. These humans were even more awkward than the reports had suggested. "We have been observing your species for some time and believe you are ready for first contact. We invite you to dock with our vessel so we may begin diplomatic discussions." Captain Chen's eyes widened. "Dock? With your ship? Is that safe?" The Galactic Council members exchanged worried glances. Caution was expected, but this level of anxiety was concerning. "I assure you, Captain, our docking procedures are quite safe," Zixnax said soothingly. "We have adapted our airlock to be compatible with your technology." Right. Chen nodded, still looking uncertain. "It's just, well, this is all very sudden. We weren't exactly expecting to meet aliens today, or ever, if I'm being honest." Zixnax's frills drooped slightly. This was not going according to the millennia-old first contact protocols. "Perhaps it would ease your concerns if I gave you a brief tour of our vessel via hologram." "That'd be great," Chen said, visibly relieved. "Let me just grab our xenobiologist. He's going to want to see this." The view screen went dark for a moment, and the council chamber erupted into worried chittering. "This is unprecedented," squawked Gloop, the gelatinous representative from Epsilon Eridani. "They're completely unprepared." "Calm yourselves," Zixnax trilled, though his own chest sacs were pulsing with anxiety. "Remember, humans are known for their adaptability. They'll adjust." The screen flickered back to life, revealing Captain Chen standing next to a lanky man with wild hair and thick glasses. The man was practically vibrating with excitement. "Hello again," Chen said. "This is Dr. Amit Patel, our chief xenobiologist. He's very eager to learn about your species." Dr. Patel waved enthusiastically. "This is amazing. Absolutely incredible. I have so many questions. What's your planet like? How do you reproduce? Oh, do you have any pets on board?" Zixnax blinked all four of his eyes in rapid succession, a sign of confusion in his species. "Pets? I'm not familiar with this term." Dr. Patel's face lit up even more, if that was possible. "You know, animals you keep for companionship. Dogs, cats, parrots, that sort of thing. Non-sapient creatures we form emotional bonds with." The council chamber went deathly quiet. Zixnax felt his chest sacs deflate in shock. "You form emotional bonds with non-sapient life forms?" "Oh yes," Patel nodded vigorously. "Humans have been domesticating animals for thousands of years. They're an integral part of our society." Zixnax turned to his fellow council members, his feathers ruffling in distress. This was far outside the bounds of normal behavior for any sapient species they'd encountered. He switched off the audio link to the human ship. "Esteemed colleagues," he trilled urgently, "we may have a serious problem. These humans appear to have a dangerous affinity for non-sapient creatures. This could pose significant risks to galactic ecosystems." Gloop wobbled anxiously. "Perhaps we should reconsider this first contact. They clearly aren't ready for integration into the galactic community." Now, chittered Exodus, the insectoid representative from Betelgeuse. "Let's not be hasty. This pet concept is unusual, certainly, but it might have some benefits we haven't considered." Zixnax nodded slowly. "You may be right, Exodus. We should gather more information before making any decisions. He reactivated the audio link. Dr. Patel, could you tell us more about these pets? Why do you keep them? Patel launched into an enthusiastic explanation, his words tumbling out faster than the universal translator could keep up. Oh, there are so many reasons. Companionship, of course. The unconditional love of a dog, or the aloof affection of a cat, can be incredibly comforting. Some pets serve practical purposes too. Dogs can be trained for search and rescue. Cats keep rodent populations under control. And don't even get me started on the therapeutic benefits. Studies have shown that interacting with pets can lower blood pressure, reduce stress, even help with depression and anxiety. The council members listened in stunned silence. The idea of deriving emotional and physical benefits from interaction with non-sapient creatures was entirely foreign to them. Captain Chen, noticing their shocked expressions, chimed in. I think we might be overwhelming them a bit, Amit. Maybe we should show them instead of just telling them. She turned to address Zixnax directly. Ambassador, would it be all right if we brought a couple of our ship's pets over to your vessel? Seeing them in person might help you understand. Zixnax felt his chest sacs constrict in panic. Bring non-sapient creatures onto a Galactic Council ship. It was unheard of. And yet, the scientific part of his mind was intensely curious. I suppose that would be acceptable, he said hesitantly. But please ensure these creatures are well controlled. We wouldn't want any incidents. Chen nodded seriously. Of course, Ambassador. We'll bring over Buddy, our ship's therapy dog, and Whiskers, our chief mouser. They're both very well behaved. As the humans prepared for docking, Zixnax turned to address the council once more. My friends, we are about to embark on a most unusual first contact experience. I urge you all to keep an open mind. These humans, and their pets, may be strange to us, but remember, diversity is the cornerstone of our galactic civilization. The other council members murmured in agreement, though Zixnax noted more than a few nervous twitches and color changes among them. Soon, the airlock hissed open, revealing Captain Chen, Dr. Patel, and two creatures that immediately sent the council into a frenzy of motion. The larger of the two bounded forward, its tongue lolling out of its mouth. Several council members instinctively activated their defense mechanisms. Force fields flickered to life, chromatophores shifted to warning colors, and poor Gloop nearly liquefied in fear. Easy, Buddy, Chen said, gently restraining the excited dog. Sorry about that, folks. He's just very friendly. Zixnax, who had instinctively puffed up his feathers to appear larger, slowly relaxed. This is Buddy, he asked, eyeing the creature warily. Yep, Patel beamed. He's a golden retriever, one of the friendliest dog breeds. Want to pet him? Before Zixnax could respond, a small furry creature sauntered out of the airlock, looking thoroughly unimpressed with its surroundings. It paused to lick its paw, then fixed the council with a piercing green stare. And that's Whiskers, Chen explained. She's a bit more independent than Buddy. Exodus, surprisingly, was the first to approach. The insectoid counselor extended a delicate appendage towards Whiskers, who sniffed it curiously before headbutting it affectionately. Fascinating, Exodus chittered. It appears to be expressing positive regard for me, despite our vast biological differences. Encouraged by Exodus's bravery, other council members began to cautiously approach. Gloop extended a pseudopod towards Buddy, who promptly licked it, causing the counselor to giggle in surprise. Zixnax watched in amazement as the initial fear and tension in the room gradually gave way to curiosity and even joy. Counselors who normally communicated in formal, stilted tones were soon cooing and babbling at the earth creatures like hatchlings. Remarkable, he murmured to Captain Chen. I've never seen anything quite like this. Chen smiled. That's the magic of pets, Ambassador. They have a way of breaking down barriers and bringing people, or, well, beings, together. As if to prove her point, Buddy chose that moment to flop onto his back, exposing his belly. After a moment of confusion, several counselors began to tentatively rub the dog's stomach, causing his leg to thump rhythmically against the floor. "Captain," Zixnax said slowly, "I believe this first contact may be the beginning of a very interesting relationship between our peoples." Chen nodded, watching as Whiskers imperiously claimed Gloop's gelatinous form as a bed, much to the counselor's delight. "I couldn't agree more, Ambassador. I couldn't agree more." As the impromptu pet therapy session continued, Zixnax found himself reconsidering everything he thought he knew about interspecies relations. These humans, with their strange affinity for non-sapient creatures, might just change the face of galactic diplomacy forever. And as Buddy's wet nose nuzzled his hand, Zixnax thought that might not be such a bad thing after all. The intergalactic zoo incident. 6 months after the unprecedented first contact between humans and the Galactic Council, the novelty of Earth's pet culture had evolved from a curious oddity to a full-blown galactic phenomenon. Alien species from across the cosmos were clamoring to experience the unique bond between humans and their animal companions. In response to this overwhelming interest, the Council had reluctantly agreed to the creation of an intergalactic zoo on a neutral space station orbiting a remote star system. The project, spearheaded by the ever-enthusiastic Dr. Amit Patel, was intended to showcase Earth's biodiversity and demonstrate the concept of animal companionship to the wider galactic community. Today was the grand opening, and Zixnax found himself regretting his role in approving this endeavor. "Ambassador, you must do something," screeched Krillic, the avian representative from Deneb. "This is madness." Zixnax sighed, his chest sacs deflating dramatically. "Krillic, please calm yourself. What seems to be the problem?" The Denebian's feathers were ruffled to twice their normal size. "The problem? The problem is that there are small furry creatures loose in the ventilation system. They're reproducing at an alarming rate and leaving. Droppings everywhere." Before Zixnax could respond, Dr. Patel's voice crackled over the station's intercom. "Attention all beings. We seem to have a slight hamster situation. Please remain calm and report any sightings to the nearest staff member. And remember, they're completely harmless." Zixnax rubbed his head frills wearily. "Harmless, he says," he muttered. "Tell that to poor Gloop, who's still traumatized from finding a gerbil in his rehydration chamber this morning." The ambassador made his way through the crowded corridors of the space station, dodging excited aliens of all shapes and sizes. Despite the chaos, he couldn't help but notice the joy on many of their faces. A group of silicon-based life forms were cooing over a litter of kittens, their crystalline bodies reflecting the light in rainbow patterns. A massive, tentacled being that Zixnax recognized as a representative from the gas giants of the Orion Nebula was gently cradling a chihuahua in one of its appendages, looking utterly smitten. "Ambassador Zixnax." Dr. Patel's voice rang out over the din. The human scientist was jogging towards him, a harried look on his face. "So glad I found you. We have a bit of a situation with the aquarium section." Zixnax felt his chest sacs constrict. "Please tell me it doesn't involve those sharks you insisted on including." Patel's nervous laugh did nothing to assuage his fears. No, the sharks are fine. It's the octopuses. They've escaped." "Escaped?" Zixnax trilled in alarm. "How?" "They're incredibly intelligent creatures, you see," Patel explained as they hurried towards the aquarium. "They figured out how to open their tanks and, they're exploring the station now." They arrived at the aquarium to find a scene of utter chaos. Water was everywhere, and confused-looking fish flopped about on the floor. A team of harried human zookeepers were scrambling to return them to their tanks. "Where are the octopuses now?" Zixnax demanded. As if in answer, a scream echoed from a nearby corridor. They rushed towards the sound to find a gelatinous alien plastered against the wall, its amorphous body quivering in fear. Clinging to the ceiling above it was a large reddish-brown octopus, its tentacles splayed out as it regarded the alien with curious eyes. "Fascinating," Patil murmured, pulling out a data pad to take notes. "It seems to be attempting interspecies communication." Zixnax shot him an exasperated look. "Dr. Patel, now is not the time for your scientific observations. We need to contain this situation before it spirals even further out of control." Just then, Captain Chen's voice came over the intercom. "Attention all station personnel and visitors. We are initiating emergency containment procedures. Please remain calm and stay where you are. If you encounter any loose animals, do not attempt to apprehend them yourself. Our trained staff will handle the situation." "Well," Paddle said with forced cheerfulness, "at least things can't get any worse." As if the universe itself wanted to prove him wrong, the lights suddenly flickered and went out, plunging the station into darkness. Emergency lighting kicked in a moment later, bathing everything in an eerie red glow. "What now?" Zixnax groaned. Patel checked his data pad, his face illuminated by its screen. "It seems the hamsters have chewed through some critical power cables. We're on emergency power now." In the dim red light, Zixnax could see more octopuses making their way along the walls and ceiling, their bodies changing color to blend in with their surroundings. In the distance, he could hear the barks and howls of dogs, the surprised shrieks of various alien species, and what sounded suspiciously like the trumpeting of an elephant. "Dr. Patel," Zixnax said slowly, "I think it's time we admitted that this intergalactic zoo might have been a mistake." Patel nodded, looking chastened. "You may be right, Ambassador, but look on the bright side. At least the slots haven't caused any trouble." As if on cue, a low, drawn-out growl echoed through the corridor. They turned to see a large, shaggy creature hanging from a piece of exposed piping, slowly making its way towards them. "Is that?" Zixnax began. "A sloth, yes," Paddle confirmed. "Though I must say, I've never seen one move quite that fast before." The next few hours were a blur of activity. Zixnax found himself coordinating with Captain Chen and the human zookeepers to contain and recapture the escaped animals. It was a task made infinitely more complicated by the well-meaning, but often misguided attempts of various alien species to help. The Arcturian delegation, with their advanced telekinetic abilities, managed to round up most of the hamsters, only to accidentally levitate them into the station's artificial gravity controls, causing periodic fluctuations that sent everyone floating helplessly for minutes at a time. The methane-breathing Taurans, in an attempt to herd the escaped zoo animals, released what they considered to be calming pheromones. Unfortunately, the effect on Earth creatures was quite the opposite, sending them into a frenzy of activity that took hours to subdue. And poor Gloop, still recovering from the gerbil incident, found himself reluctantly pressed into service as a living containment unit for the escaped fish, his gelatinous body serving as a temporary aquarium until proper tanks could be repaired. As the chaos gradually subsided and the last of the animals were accounted for, Zixnax found Dr. Paddle sitting dejectedly in the zoo's main atrium, surrounded by empty cages and scattered leaves. "I'm sorry, Ambassador," Paddle said, looking up as Zixnax approached. "This is all my fault. I was so excited about sharing Earth's animals with the galaxy that I didn't properly consider the risks." Zixnax surprised himself by placing a comforting hand on the human's shoulder. "Your intentions were good, Dr. Paddle. Perhaps we were all a bit too eager to embrace this new concept without fully understanding its implications." Patel nodded glumly. "I suppose we'll have to shut down the zoo now. The Council will never allow it to continue after this fiasco." Zixnax was about to agree when he noticed something odd. Despite the chaos of the day, despite the property damage and the frayed nerves, the alien visitors didn't seem upset. If anything, they looked exhilarated. A group of Andromedans was excitedly discussing the octopus's problem-solving skills. The Arcturians were comparing notes on the proper telekinetic handling of small mammals. Even Krillic, who had been so distressed earlier, was gently stroking a purring cat, a look of wonder on his avian features. Perhaps, Zixnax said slowly, we don't need to shut it down entirely. Maybe we just need to recalibrate our approach. Patil looked up, hope dawning on his face. What do you mean? Well, Zixnax mused, his chest sacs puffing up as he warmed to the idea. Instead of trying to replicate an Earth zoo exactly, why don't we create something new? An interactive center where different species can learn about Earth's animals in a more controlled environment. We could have virtual reality experiences, supervised interaction sessions, that sort of thing. Patil's eyes lit up. Yes, and we could incorporate elements from other worlds too. Imagine a facility that showcases the diversity of life across the galaxy, with a focus on the potential for interspecies bonds. As they began to excitedly discuss possibilities, Zixnax felt a warm weight settle onto his lap. Looking down, he was startled to see one of the escaped sloths had made its way to him. Its long arms wrapped around his waist in what could only be described as a hug. Hesitantly, Zixnax stroked its coarse fur. The sloth looked up at him with sleepy eyes and let out a contented sigh. Despite himself, Zixnax felt his chest sacs warm with an unfamiliar emotion. You know, Dr. Patel, he said softly, still petting the sloth, I think I'm beginning to understand the appeal of these Earth creatures after all. Patel grinned. Just wait until you meet a capybara, Ambassador. Then you'll really be hooked. As the station slowly returned to normal operations and plans for the new Intergalactic Wildlife Education Center began to take shape, Zixnax couldn't help but feel that despite the day's chaos, or perhaps because of it, they had taken a significant step towards true intergalactic understanding. And if that understanding came with the occasional escaped octopus or rampaging elephant, well, perhaps that was simply the price of progress in this strange, wonderful, ever-expanding universe. Diplomatic pets and cosmic crisis. One standard galactic year after the infamous intergalactic zoo incident, Ambassador Zixnax found himself in an unprecedented situation. He was preparing to attend the first-ever Galactic Peace Summit with his newly appointed diplomatic aide, a golden retriever named Cosmos. The decision to include Earth animals in diplomatic proceedings had been controversial, to say the least. But after the surprising success of the revamped Intergalactic Wildlife Education Center, the Galactic Council had grudgingly agreed to a trial run of pet diplomats. This is absurd, grumbled Krillic, pacing back and forth in the shuttle bay. How can we expect to be taken seriously with these creatures at our side? Zixnax sighed, absently scratching Cosmos behind the ears. Need I remind you, Krillic, that it was your enthusiastic report on the therapeutic benefits of cat companionship that swayed the Council's vote? Krillic's feathers ruffled in embarrassment. Yes, well, that's different. Mr. Whiskers is a highly intelligent being. This. He gestured at Cosmos, who was happily chewing on a quantum-stabilized chew toy, is hardly a diplomatic asset. Before Zixnax could reply, a commotion at the other end of the shuttle bay caught their attention. Dr. Amit Patel came rushing in, his lab coat flapping behind him, followed by a small waddling figure. Ambassador, so glad I caught you before you left, Patel panted, coming to a stop before them. I have exciting news about the interspecies companion breeding program. Zixnax eyed the creature at Patel's feet warily. It looked like a bizarre cross between an earth platypus and a Betelgeusian fire slug. Do I want to know? Patel's face lit up with enthusiasm. Oh yes, meet Sparky, the first successful hybrid of Earth and alien species designed specifically for companionship across different atmospheric requirements. Sparky looked up at them with 4 eyes, 2 mammalian, 2 compound, and let out a sound that was half quack, half sizzle. A small puff of flame escaped its bill. Fascinating, Zixnax said diplomatically, while Krillic took a nervous step back. But perhaps this discussion can wait until after the summit. We're about to depart. Oh, of course. Patel nodded. I just thought you might like to know that the program is progressing well. Who knows? Maybe next year you'll have a Sparky of your own as a diplomatic aide. As Paddle led Sparky away, Zixnax turned to see Krillik staring after them in horror. On second thought, the Danabian said faintly, perhaps the dog isn't so bad after all. The journey to the neutral space station hosting the Galactic Peace Summit was uneventful, save for a minor incident involving Cosmos and the ship's artificial gravity controls. As they disembarked, Zixnax couldn't help but feel a sense of trepidation. This summit was meant to address long-standing conflicts between several galactic factions. The inclusion of Earth's pet diplomats was either going to be a stroke of genius or the biggest diplomatic blunder since the Orion Nebula karaoke incident of 2186. As they entered the Grand Conference Hall, Zixnax was struck by the eclectic mix of beings present. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy were in attendance, each accompanied by an Earth animal or one of Dr. Patel's companion hybrids. The Andromedans had taken a liking to octopuses, their tentacled companions mimicking the crystalline structures of their handlers. The methane-breathing Taurans had formed a surprising bond with Earth's cattle, leading to some confusion about which was the diplomat and which was the companion. And there, in the corner, was the Arcturian delegation, their telekinetic abilities being put to good use in an impromptu game of fetch with a group of excited border collies. Well, Krillik muttered, at least it can't get any stranger than this. As if on cue, the doors burst open, and in waddled a massive potato-shaped creature with stubby legs and a placid expression. Riding atop it was a tiny green-skinned being with enormous eyes. Is that? Zixnax began, his chest sacs puffing up in surprise. A capybara, Krillik finished, his voice a mix of awe and resignation. Ridden by the representative of the Zeta Reticuli hive mind. Before they could comment further, a hush fell over the room as the Supreme Arbiter of the Galactic Council entered. The Arbiter, a being of pure energy contained within a hovering translucent sphere, pulsed with a rainbow of colors as it surveyed the assembled diplomats and their unusual companions. Esteemed representatives of the galaxy, the Arbiter's voice resonated in their minds. We are gathered here today to address the conflicts that have long divided us. But before we begin, I must address the unusual nature of this gathering. Zixnax felt his chest sacs constrict anxiously. This was the moment of truth. In all my eons as Arbiter, the voice continued, I have never seen such a diverse assembly of beings coexisting in harmony. These Earth creatures and their derivatives seem to have accomplished what millennia of traditional diplomacy could not. They have given us common ground. A ripple of surprised murmurs swept through the room. Cosmos, sensing the shift in mood, let out a happy woof that echoed in the suddenly quiet chamber. The Arbiter's sphere pulsed with amused colors. Indeed, small Earth canine, your sentiment is appreciated. Turning its attention back to the assembly, the Arbiter continued, in light of this unprecedented situation, I propose we alter the structure of this summit. Instead of formal negotiations, let us engage in, what do the humans call it? Ah, yes, a pet playdate. What followed was unlike any diplomatic event in galactic history. Formal proceedings gave way to interspecies mingling, with Earth animals and hybrid companions serving as icebreakers and tension diffusers. Zixnax watched in amazement as age-old enemies found themselves bonding over the antics of a playful kitten or the soothing presence of a gentle cow. The Andromedans and Betelgeusians, whose conflict over crystalline mining rights had brought them to the brink of war, were now engaged in an animated discussion about octopus cognition, their differences momentarily forgotten. Even Krillik, who had been so skeptical, was grudgingly enjoying himself. Zixnax spotted him teaching a group of Tau Ceti diplomats how to properly scratch a cat's chin, his earlier reservations apparently forgotten. As the day wore on, Zixnax found himself in a corner of the room, deep in conversation with the Zeta Reticulan representative. The tiny alien was absently stroking its capybara mount, which had curled up for a nap. "You know," the Zeta Reticulan said, its large eyes blinking slowly, "we came here prepared for another futile round of negotiations. But this is different. For the first time in cycles, I feel like we're truly communicating." Zixnax nodded, his chest sacs warm with a mix of relief and excitement. "I know what you mean. It's as if these Earth creatures have given us a new language, one of empathy and shared experience." Their conversation was interrupted by a commotion near the center of the room. They turned to see Cosmos standing proudly, his tail wagging furiously, as diplomats from a dozen different species applauded. At his feet was the Galactic Peace Accord, apparently signed by all parties. Did your canine companion just broker a peace treaty?" the Zeta Reticulan asked, its voice a mix of disbelief and admiration. Zixnax felt his head frills flutter in surprise. I believe he did." As news of the unprecedented peace agreement spread through the conference hall, Zixnax found himself at the center of a whirlwind of congratulations and expressions of gratitude. Species that had been at each other's throats for generations were now sharing stories about their new animal companions, making plans for cultural exchanges, and even discussing joint scientific ventures. In the midst of the celebratory chaos, Zixnax felt a tug on his robes. He looked down to see Cosmos gazing up at him, tail still wagging, with an expression that seemed to say, "Did I do good?" Overcome with emotion, Zixnax knelt down and enveloped the dog in a many-limbed hug. "Yes, Cosmos," he said softly, his voice thick with emotion. "You did very, very good." As the summit drew to a close, with more progress made in a single day than in the past century of traditional diplomacy, Zixnax couldn't help but reflect on the strange journey that had brought them to this point. From first contact to zoo mishaps to this unprecedented peace accord, it had been a roller coaster of cultural misunderstandings, chaotic incidents, and unexpected breakthroughs. And at the heart of it all were the Earth creatures, the dogs and cats, the octopuses and capybaras, and even the bizarre hybrid creations of Dr. Patel. These beings, with their simple needs and uncomplicated affections, had somehow managed to bridge gaps that had seemed insurmountable. As he prepared to board the shuttle back to Galactic Central, Cosmos trotting happily at his side, Zixnax found himself excited for the future in a way he hadn't been in a very long time. The galaxy was entering a new era of understanding and cooperation, all thanks to humanity's most unexpected export: unconditional love wrapped in fur, feathers, and tentacles. "Come on, Cosmos," he said, scratching the dog behind the ears. "Let's go home. I have a feeling our work is just beginning." Cosmos woofed in agreement, and together, the unlikely pair of diplomats set off towards a brighter, more interconnected galaxy. The Empathy Experiment. 5 years had passed since the groundbreaking Galactic Peace Summit, and the influence of Earth's animals on interstellar relations had only grown. The Galactic Council, once skeptical of humanity's pet diplomacy, now eagerly embraced the concept. Across the cosmos, diplomatic missions and alien embassies boasted an eclectic mix of Earth creatures and Dr. Patel's ever-evolving hybrids. But not everyone was thrilled with this new state of affairs. Ambassador Zixnax stood before the council, his feathers ruffled with concern. Beside him, Cosmos lay quietly, his golden fur gleaming under the chamber's soft light. "Esteemed colleagues," Zixnax began, his voice grave, "I come before you today with troubling news. We have received reports of a growing anti-pet movement in the Outer Rim territories. They call themselves the Cosmic Purists, and they view our embrace of Earth's creatures as a threat to galactic culture." Murmurs of concern rippled through the chamber. Gloop, who had long since overcome his gerbil-related trauma and now sported a small aquarium of colorful fish embedded in his gelatinous form, wobbled anxiously. Surely they can't deny the positive impact these companions have had on galactic peace. Gloop burbled. Krillic, now rarely seen without his beloved Mr. Whiskers perched on his shoulder, chirped in agreement. Indeed, the statistical evidence is overwhelming. Interspecies conflicts are down 73% since the introduction of pet diplomacy. Zixnax nodded solemnly. While that's true, the cosmic purists argue that we're losing touch with our own unique species traits. They fear we're becoming, well, too human. The Supreme Arbiter's orb pulsed with concerned colors. This is troubling news indeed, Ambassador. What do you propose we do? Before Zixnax could respond, the chamber doors burst open. Dr. Amit Patel rushed in, his lab coat singed and smoking slightly. At his heels trotted a creature that looked like a cross between a St. Bernard and a bioluminescent jellyfish. Apologies for the interruption, Patel panted, but I believe I have a solution to our problem. The council members exchanged wary glances. Patel's solutions had a habit of creating as many problems as they solved. Dr. Patel, the Arbiter's voice resonated, a hint of resignation coloring its tone. Please explain. Patel's face lit up with his characteristic enthusiasm. Esteemed council members, I present to you the Empathy Enhancer 5000. He gestured grandly at the creature beside him, which chose that moment to shake itself, sending bioluminescent droplets splattering across the chamber floor. Oh dear, Gloop murmured, inching away from the spreading puddle. Undeterred, Patel forged ahead. This magnificent creature is not just a pet, but a living, breathing empathy amplifier. Through a combination of pheromones, low-frequency sound waves, and a dash of what we humans like to call puppy dog eyes, it can enhance feelings of empathy and understanding in any sentient being within a 50-meter radius. The council chamber erupted into a cacophony of excited chittering, nervous warbling, and skeptical harumphing. Dr. Patel, Zixnax interjected, his chest sacs puffing up with a mix of curiosity and concern. Are you suggesting we use these empathy enhancers to sway the cosmic purists? Patel nodded vigorously. Exactly. We'll organize a grand tour of the Outer Rim, a showcase of all the wonderful ways Earth's animals and our new hybrids have improved galactic life. And at every stop, our furry, feathered, and bioluminescent friends will be working their empathic magic. The council deliberated for hours, weighing the potential benefits against the risks. In the end, curiosity and desperation won out over caution. The Galactic Empathy Tour, as it came to be known, was greenlit. What followed was a whirlwind adventure across the far-flung reaches of the galaxy. Zixnax found himself leading a motley crew of diplomats, scientists, and a veritable Noah's Ark of Earth animals and hybrid creatures. Their first stop was Zeta Epsilon, a world known for its isolationist policies and general disdain for all things foreign. As their ship descended through the planet's murky atmosphere, Zixnax felt his chest sacs constrict with anxiety. Are you sure about this, Dr. Patel? He asked, eyeing the Empathy Enhancer 5000, which Patel had taken to calling Globy, warily. Patel's confident grin didn't waver. Trust in the power of interspecies bonding, Ambassador, and maybe keep a treat handy, just in case. As they disembarked, they were met with a chilly reception. The Zeta Epsilonians, tall, spindly beings with iridescent exoskeletons, regarded the Earth creatures with a mix of disgust and fear. But then Globy shook his luminous fur, sending a wave of empathy-enhancing particles wafting through the air. Almost immediately, the atmosphere began to shift. Antennae that had been rigidly upright in suspicion began to relax. Compound eyes that had been narrowed in distrust now widened with curiosity. A young Zeta Epsilonian, braver than the rest, stepped forward and hesitantly extended a spindly limb towards Cosmos. The golden retriever responded with a gentle lick, causing the alien child to emit a series of clicks that sounded suspiciously like giggling. From that moment on, the ice was broken. By the end of their visit, the once isolationist Zeta Epsilonians were clamoring to establish their own interspecies companion program. And so it went, planet after planet, system after system. The Galactic Empathy Tour swept through the outer rim like a furry, feathered, tentacled tidal wave of good feelings. Even the most hardened cosmic purist strongholds found themselves warming to the charms of Earth's animals and their hybrid offspring. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. On Omega Centauri, a world of gaseous beings, they faced a unique challenge: how to demonstrate the benefits of pet companionship to a species that couldn't physically touch solid matter. It was Krillic who came up with the solution. Working with Dr. Patel, they developed a holographic pet program, allowing the gaseous beings to experience the joys of animal companionship without the pesky limitations of physical form. The sight of swirling clouds of sentient gas playing fetch with holographic puppies was one Zixnax knew he'd never forget. As the tour progressed, news of their success spread across the galaxy. Worlds that had initially been skeptical now sent urgent requests for visits. The empathy enhancers, which Paddle continued to refine, became the must-have diplomatic accessory of the galactic season. But their greatest challenge lay ahead. Xenon Prime, the heartland of the cosmic purist movement. As their ship approached the forbidding planet, its surface a swirling mass of metallic storms, Zixnax felt a sense of foreboding. "I'm not sure even Globy's charms will work here, Dr. Patel," he said softly. Patel's usual enthusiasm seemed subdued. "You may be right, Ambassador, but we have to try. The future of galactic harmony depends on it." They were met at the landing pad by a delegation of Xenonites, their crystalline bodies pulsing with barely contained hostility. The leader, a being of jagged angles and sharp edges, stepped forward. "Ambassador Zixnax," the Xenonite's voice grated like crystal on crystal, "you are not welcome here. Take your furry abominations and leave our world at once." Zixnax felt his chest sacs deflate in disappointment. But before he could respond, something unexpected happened. Cosmos, who had been quietly observing the tense exchange, suddenly bounded forward. Before anyone could react, he had pressed his nose against the Xenonite leader's crystalline leg. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. The Xenonites bristled, their crystalline forms vibrating with alarm. Zixnax held his breath, certain they were about to witness a diplomatic disaster. And then, to everyone's astonishment, the Xenonite leader began to change. The harsh angles of its form began to soften, its pulsing light shifting from angry red to a softer, more curious blue. What is this sensation?" the Xenonite asked, its grating voice now tinged with wonder. Patel, barely able to contain his excitement, explained, "That, my crystalline friend, is the unconditional love of a dog. No empathy enhancers, no scientific trickery, just pure, simple affection." As they watched in amazement, Cosmos worked his magic on the Xenonite delegation. One by one, the crystalline beings softened, their hostile vibrations giving way to harmonious resonances. By the end of their visit, Xenon Prime had not only embraced the concept of pet companionship, but had also begun work on developing crystalline life forms that could bond with their unique physiology. As they prepared to leave, the Xenonite leader, now a softly glowing blue crystal, approached Zixnax. "Ambassador," it chimed melodiously, "we owe you and your Earth companions an apology. We feared what we did not understand. But now we see that the true path to preserving our unique cultures lies not in isolation, but in connection." Zixnax felt his chest sacs swell with pride and hope. "Thank you, friend," he said warmly. "Welcome to the galactic community." As their ship lifted off from Xenon Prime, Zixnax gazed out at the stars. Cosmos curled up contentedly at his feet. The Galactic Empathy Tour had been a resounding success, beyond even their wildest expectations. But more than that, it had taught them all a valuable lesson. In the vast, often cold expanse of the cosmos, it was not advanced technology or complex diplomacy that ultimately brought beings together. It was the simple, profound power of empathy, compassion, and love, qualities that Earth's animals seemed to embody in abundance. As they set a course for home, Zixnax found himself looking forward to the future with renewed optimism. The galaxy was changing, growing, evolving. And at the heart of it all were the unexpected ambassadors from Earth, the pets that had become the unlikely heroes of a new age of galactic harmony. A new era of interspecies understanding. 10 years had passed since the groundbreaking Galactic Empathy Tour, and the cosmic landscape had transformed in ways no one could have predicted. The Galactic Council Chamber, once a stark and formal place, now resembled a whimsical blend of diplomatic center and interstellar petting zoo. Ambassador Zixnax, his feathers now streaked with distinguished silver, stood at the podium, surveying the assembled delegates. Beside him, Cosmos, now a venerable old dog with a gray muzzle, lay contentedly, occasionally thumping his tail against the floor. Esteemed colleagues, honored friends, Zixnax began, his chest sacs swelling with emotion. We gather today to celebrate a decade of unprecedented peace and cooperation in our galaxy, and we owe it all to the most unexpected of diplomats, the animals of Earth and their extraordinary offspring. A chorus of appreciative chirps, warbles, and woofs echoed through the chamber. Gloop, whose embedded aquarium had evolved into a complex coral reef system, burbled happily. Krillic, now the proud caretaker of an entire clouder of cosmic cats, purred in agreement. But our journey is far from over, Zixnax continued. Today, we embark on our most ambitious project yet, the Galactic Harmony Initiative. He gestured, and a holographic display flickered to life, showing a massive space station shaped like a tree. Its trunk was a central hub, while branches extended in all directions, each ending in a biodome. This, Zixnax explained, is the Yggdrasil Station. Named after an Earth myth, it will serve as a living laboratory of interspecies cooperation and understanding. Each biodome will replicate the native environment of a different galactic species, allowing us to study and appreciate the unique conditions that shaped each of our cultures. Excited murmurs rippled through the assembly. Dr. Amit Patel, now sporting a wild mane of gray hair and a beard that would make most wizards jealous, stepped forward. "But that's not all, folks," he exclaimed, his enthusiasm undimmed by the years. "The central hub will house our most ambitious project yet, the Interspecies Communication and Empathy Center, or ICE for short." The hologram zoomed in on the trunk of the space station, revealing a complex network of chambers and labs. "Here," Paddle continued, "we'll be pushing the boundaries of interspecies understanding. Imagine being able to not just communicate with a dog or a cat, but to truly experience the world as they do. And not just Earth animals, but beings from across the galaxy." The council chamber erupted in a cacophony of excited chatter. The implications were staggering. Zixnax raised his appendages for quiet. "I know this sounds like the stuff of science fiction, even by our advanced standards. But thanks to the groundwork laid by our Earth friends and their animal companions, we believe it's possible. We've already seen how the simple act of petting a dog can bridge gaps between species that once seemed insurmountable. Imagine what we could achieve with a deeper, more profound connection." As the council debated the finer points of the Galactic Harmony Initiative, Zixnax found his mind wandering back to that first, chaotic encounter with humanity and their pets. Who could have imagined that a slobbering dog or a purring cat could have such a profound impact on galactic civilization? The next few years were a whirlwind of activity. The construction of Yggdrasil Station became the galaxy's most ambitious cooperative project, with species from every corner of known space contributing their unique expertise. The Andromedans, with their mastery of crystalline technology, created biodomes that could shift and adapt to perfectly mimic any environment. The gaseous beings of Omega Centauri developed an atmospheric regulation system that could accommodate everything from methane breathers to silicon-based life forms. Even the once isolationist Xenonites threw themselves into the project with gusto, their crystalline technology proving invaluable in the creation of the Interspecies Communication and Empathy Center. Dr. Patel led the scientific efforts, his team a motley crew of the galaxy's brightest minds and most empathetic souls. They worked tirelessly, pushing the boundaries of neuroscience, quantum entanglement, and fields of study that didn't even have names yet. Finally, after years of work, setbacks, and breakthroughs, Yggdrasil Station was ready for its first trial run. Zixnax stood in the central chamber of the ice, a sleek helmet adorned with blinking lights resting in his hands. Around him, beings from a dozen different species were similarly equipped, each looking a mix of nervous and excited. "Well, folks," Dr. Paddle said, clapping his hands together, "this is it. The moment of truth. Is everyone ready to make history?" A chorus of affirmatives in various languages filled the room. Zixnax took a deep breath, his chest sacs puffing up with anticipation, and placed the helmet on his head. For a moment, nothing happened. Then suddenly, the world exploded into a riot of sensation. Zixnax gasped as his consciousness expanded, touching the minds of everyone in the room. He could feel the cool, logical thoughts of the Andromedans, the swirling, gaseous musings of the Centaurians, the crystalline clarity of the Xenonites. And there, a warm, golden presence that could only be Cosmos. Zixnax felt his perception shift, and suddenly he was experiencing the world through the old dog's senses, the rich tapestry of sense, the acute hearing that could pick up the faintest sounds, the simple, pure joy of existing in the moment. It was overwhelming and beautiful. Around the room, similar revelations were taking place. Species that had once been mysterious and alien to each other were suddenly sharing thoughts, feelings, and experiences in the most intimate way possible. As the session came to an end and the participants removed their helmets, there wasn't a dry eye or equivalent sensory organ in the room. The barriers between species, between different forms of consciousness, had been breached in a way that would forever change galactic society. In the years that followed, the Galactic Harmony Initiative expanded beyond anyone's wildest dreams. Yggdrasil Station became a beacon of understanding and cooperation, drawing visitors and researchers from across the cosmos. The technology developed in the ice found applications far beyond simple communication. Conflicts that had once seemed intractable were resolved as opposing sides literally walked a mile in each other's shoes, or tentacles, or gravitational fields. Medical breakthroughs abounded as doctors gained the ability to truly understand their patients' experiences. But perhaps the most profound change was the simplest. Across the galaxy, beings of all shapes, sizes, and compositions found themselves drawn to the companionship of animals, both the Earth varieties and the ever-expanding catalog of Dr. Patel's hybrid creations. The sight of a xenonite crystalline being taking its pet glow slug for a walk, or an Andromedan teaching its octopus companion to solve puzzle cubes, became commonplace. The universal language of love and companionship that had begun with humanity's simple pets had blossomed into a galaxy-wide renaissance of empathy and understanding. As for Zixnax, he found himself spending more and more time on Yggdrasil Station, marveling at the miraculous transformations taking place every day. Cosmos, now in the twilight of his life, was a constant presence at his side, a living reminder of the journey that had brought them all to this point. One day, as they stood in the station's grand observatory, watching the swirl of stars and the busy traffic of ships coming and going, Zixnax felt a familiar nudge against his hand. He looked down to see Cosmos gazing up at him, those soulful brown eyes as full of love and wisdom as ever. Zixnax knelt down, enveloping the old dog in a gentle, many-limbed hug. "Thank you, old friend," he murmured, "for everything." Cosmos responded with a soft woof and a gentle lick, a gesture that needed no advanced technology to translate. In that moment, as it had been from the beginning, the simple love between a being and their companion spoke louder than any words. As they turned back to the view, Zixnax felt a profound sense of peace. The galaxy stretched out before them, vast and full of wonders. And thanks to the unlikely alliance between humans, their animal companions, and the diverse species of the cosmos, It was a galaxy more harmonious and full of potential than ever before. The future, Zixnex realized, was bright indeed, and it was all thanks to the power of a wagging tail, a gentle purr, and the universal language of love.